Masechet Shekalim, Daf He. We're talking about a case where you have two brothers who inherit an estate from their father, and in the estate there are coins and also animals. So we talked about two cases. One is where they don't split the estate; they leave it as is. So that's kind of a corporate entity. It kind of belonged to the father, but the father passed away, so now they control it. In that case, the animals, they have to give ma'ased for the animals because anything that was born during the year, they have to give a tenth of them. And it's the estate that has to give it because they were born under the estate. However, if the estate contributes two machazita shekels for both brothers, they don't have to pay the surcharge because we saw a rule that you don't have to pay a surcharge. If I pay for someone else, I don't have to pay the surcharge. If it's not a loan, if it's a loan, I do have to pay. But if I'm just giving it to them, I don't have to pay. So that was the case. On the other hand, if two brothers inherit and then they split the inheritance, so in that case, they're saying, okay, these animals are yours, these animals are mine. So they're exchanging animals. In that case, it's actually kind of like they bought them or acquired them from new. And so therefore, they don't have to give ma'aser on the animals. But now, since they split the money belongs to them themselves. So if I give machasita shekel, I have to give the surcharge, and so would my brother. Good. Those are the cases that we already saw in the Mishnah. And now Rabbi Chia adds a comment. Rabbi Chia Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'eh, or a question. Ve'lama let nan amrinan. Says, how come, nan is short for anan, how come we don't say also the following possible two cases? Pamim shen chayavin bazeh ubazeh, upamim shen peturin mizeh umizeh. You could have cases where they are liable to pay the tenth of the newborn animals and also the surcharge. And there are cases when they would be exempt from both of them. How so? Hech abida, chalku nechasim velo chalku habema. So, right, they got this inheritance and they decided to split the cash, but they left the animals in the name of the estate. And that's in that case, chayavim bazeh or bazeh. So they have to pay ma'aseh on the animals because the animals are in the estate. So anything born in the estate has to pay for. However, since they split the money, so the money is now mine, I'm paying for my own money, so therefore I would have to pay the surcharge. That's a case where you'll be chayav in both. The other way around, let's say we decided to split the animals between us. So in that case, now I acquired the animals from new. I don't have to pay ma'aseh on anything that was born beforehand. But we left the cash intact in the inheritance, in the estate. So that's a corporate entity. That corporate entity is paying on my behalf. And therefore, if one pays for on behalf of another, they are not required to pay the surcharge. So this is very interesting because sometimes you hear some people say that in halakha there's no such thing as a corporate entity. There's no such thing as a corporation that has an independent existence, that it's a modern idea. It's true, it's much more developed in modern economies with limited liability corporations and all that. But here you do have an idea of it's its own entity. It can give machazita shekel on behalf of someone else, and it's considered as if it's someone else giving on your behalf, even though the brothers here are in control of it. So this is a very interesting concept. Amar Rabbi Mana, Hadat Amar b'shelo hayita behemarov, avalim hayita behemarov, hen ikar nechasim. Okay, the question was, how come it didn't address all those cases? Right? The Mishnah should have said there's four cases. Why not? So Rabbi Mana responds, he says, well, these two cases that you brought would only work if the estate was not mostly made up of animals. But if it's mostly made up of animals and there's just a little cash on the side, then really the animals are the main thing. So if you split the animals, you split the cash. And if you don't split the animals, then you don't split the cash. The cash doesn't really matter. And I guess that would be the typical case. And they weren't sitting with so many coins. It's the livestock that is the main part of the estate. Rabbi Abin Amar Rabbi Shimi Ba'eh. Another question. He doesn't understand the whole concept. He seems to be rejecting the idea that you can have a corporation in this regard. Just because you made the estate as if it's one person regarding giving a tenth of your animals, so that you do have to give a tenth of the animals because it's the same ownership, right? The father owned it. And even though the father passed away, still his estate owns the animals, so you have to give a tenth of any animals that were born that year. Fine, I understand that. But just because you have that law, now you're going to say if the estate pays the machazit shekel, you don't have to give a surcharge. It's not really its own entity. So he doesn't buy this whole corporate entity. He doesn't extend it. At least he doesn't feel comfortable extending it to machazit shekel. Amaleh, in response, Rav Avin says, La shaniyahi shu noten sela achat shelema. Says, well, why not? It should be different, right? Because after all, in this case, they're going to the estate. They're taking a whole sela. A whole sela has 2 shekalim. A shekel in rabbinic denomination is a machasita shekel in biblical denomination. So they're giving a whole for 2 people. So therefore, you see, it is in fact a corporate entity, and it has its own money. You don't have to split it into 2 and then give it separately. So he says Mishnah makes sense. Okay, a question on that. Well, what if they took the inheritance, they split it, and then they joined in as partners again? So then it should be the same thing. They're joining as partners again. So it's like the inheritance is still intact. And so therefore they should have the same law and have to give the 10th of the animal and not give the surcharge, right? What's the difference? But yet the Mishnah says only in a case where they left the inheritance intact, then they have to no, right. So even if they split it and went and joined it together, they should be chayav in masar behema, right? As if the inheritance was whole. Yet the Mishnah says only if the inheritance is whole, then that's the case. Otherwise, not. Otherwise, chayavin be kalbon, right? Then if they split it and join it together, in fact, the halacha is they have to pay a surcharge, and they don't have to give masar behema because it's as if it's their own property. Right? In other words, when we just make a partnership is not the same as a corporation. When we split it, then I own the animals, and I buy the animals, and therefore we don't have to give masar behema. And even if we make a partnership, if the partnership pays for me, it's not a separate entity. So there's no concept of a corporation like a partnership that we can create only in the case of inheritance. So he's like, well, what's the difference between them? So what's the difference between having inheritance and splitting and joining it together again? The answer is Rabbi Ba B'Shem Abba Bar Rabbi Yehuna. He shene achim sheyarshu avihen. He shene gisin sheyarshu et chamihen. If you have 2 brothers who inherit, split it apart, and then make a partnership together, it's actually the same as, let's say a father has 2 daughters and no sons. So the daughters inherit. The son-in-laws then might take that money and make a partnership. Now that clearly is a new partnership because the sons never inherited together, right? It's impossible. The son-in-laws don't inherit themselves. So if they create a partnership, it's a new entity, it's a new partnership, not the inheritance. And therefore,
Ricky, the daughters inherit
if there's no sons.
Okay, so then Benot Tzlofchad was something pre-rabbinic. Is that
absolutely right? Benot Tzlofchad is from Moshe, and then once that became clarified, Moshe said, "This is the law forevermore that daughters will inherit."
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Exactly here. Good question.
Okay, thank you.
So if 2 brothers, therefore, just like son-in-laws, they didn't actually inherit directly. If they create a partnership, it's not the same as the inheritance. It's a new partnership, and it's a new thing. So too, 2 brothers, if they inherit and leave it intact, it's its own entity. But once they split it up, even if they come into partnership together, it will be the same as 2 strangers or 2 brothers-in-law that make a partnership. The partnership is not a corporate entity, and therefore it would have the same law as themselves as individuals. Okay, good. These surcharges, where do they go? Who gets them? Different opinions. Rabbi Meir Omer Lishkalim. So Rabbi Meir says you add them with the shekel themselves. See, that would make sense if you say the reason for the surcharges because maybe the coin is devalued and we want to give the full amount, so it should go with the shekalim to make sure we fill in the full amount. Rabbi Lazar Omer Lindava. No, it goes to extra free will offerings. There's, anytime the mizbeach is idle and we don't want to just do nothing, so we have extra korbanot. So it doesn't go to the regular communal offerings. It just goes to the fund for extra things. Rabbi Shimon Shizuri Omer, Likua Zahav V'Sipur Lebet Kodesh HaKodashim. Rabbi Shimon says it goes to beautifying the Bet HaMikdash, buying gold plates for the Kodesh Kodashim, even though nobody would ever see it, but it's still nice to make it beautiful in and of itself, so it goes for that. Ben Azai Omer Shulchanin Hayu Notlin Otan Bischaran Yeshim Nosat Derachim. And these two other opinions say it goes to the money changers themselves. They after all, they're leaving their regular business and helping out. So we rely on the money changers in order to do all this collection of the Machasita Shekel. It's their tip. So it goes to them, or it goes for their travel expenses, right? We have to make sure that there are these money collectors, money changers in every city, and so if they have to travel, we pay for that. Okay, Hadran Alach Perek Be'ahad Be'adar. Chazakim Buruchim, we finished the first chapter. These chapters are very short. We have to fit 8 chapters into only 21 dapim. Okay, so Mishnah Aleph of the second perek. Mitzarfin shkalim ledarkonot mipnei masoy haderech. Okay, we ended the first chapter talking about that we might use the surcharge for the travel expenses. So now we're going to talk about more about traveling. Once they collected machasita shekel in a certain city, right? They collected them in Tel Aviv. Well, now someone has to transport it to Yerushalayim. So they'll give it to an agent, an armed truck, armored truck, I guess, to send it there. So now you want to carry it. You have all these machazita shekel, from hundreds of people or thousands of people. It's going to be very heavy. So you don't want to carry it in that way. And therefore, what you can do is you can take the shekalim and exchange them for darkonot. Darkon in modern Hebrew is a passport, but in ancient Hebrew, this is it's a Persian word. It's a small gold coin. You can exchange 4 shekalim for machasita shekel values for one darkon. So it's a quarter of the number of coins, and also because they're made out of gold, they're very small, so they're very good for traveling. So this is like travel. It's kind of like traveler's checks. So these darkon because of the weight on the road. So you're allowed to do that, and then you then bring it to Yerushalayim in that way. Keshem shayu shofarot b'mikdash kach hayu shofarot ba'medina. Just like there were these shofarot, they're not actually horns. It means that they're collection boxes, pushkas, right? And they're small on top and large on the bottom. That way, people would put the money in. They wouldn't be able to reach their hand in to steal. So they're shaped kind of like a horn. And just like you had these collection boxes in the Bet HaMikdash, anyone who came, but not everybody came to the Bet HaMikdash during Adar. So you would have in all the different cities all around Israel, you'd have collection boxes, and people could come and deposit their machasita shekel. Mishnah continues, B'nei ha'ir sheshalchu et shiklehen, v'nignebu o she'abdu. So a certain city, they collected all the machazita shekel and they sent it with an agent. But on the way, they were stolen, right? He was held up, or he lost them. So this is a big problem we're going to be dealing with, right? What happens if the agent lost or they were stolen? So it depends. If in the Bet HaMikdash, right, on the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they actually go to the treasury, with a shovel, and they're going to collect a whole bunch of coins and put it in a box, and then use that. Then someone will take that box and go to the suppliers and buy animals and buy flour that will be used in the communal sacrifices. So as soon as he puts that shovel and takes a withdrawal into a box to actually use, at that point, he has in mind not only the coins that are actually there in the treasury, but also any coins that are on their way. So as soon as he does that, the Bet HaMikdash acquires ownership of all of the coins, even those that are on the way. And therefore, if you already did that collection, then the agent has to come to the treasurers, gizbarim, it's a Persian word, and make a swear that I didn't steal it, I was not negligent, I was bringing them, doing my job, and what can I do? I was lost, I got lost, it was a total mistake. So he has to swear because he caused the Bet HaMikdash treasury to lose out, so he has to give a swear to the treasurers that he did his job okay. V'im lav nishba'in libnei ha'ir. But if the Bet HaMikdash, they did not yet do the collection, so then the coins that are on their way are not yet the responsibility of the Bet HaMikdash. The Bet HaMikdash doesn't own them yet because they're just on their way and they didn't do the collection. So they still belong to the city dwellers. In that case, the city dwellers lose out on what they gave. So the agent has to go and swear to the city dwellers, says, I'm so sorry, I take an oath, it wasn't my fault, I lost them, they were stolen, right? I apologize. And the city dwellers then would have to give a second machasita shekel because the first one that they gave was lost. Okay, so that's interesting, right? And it's like, you send in a check to pay a bill and it gets lost in the mail. Who's responsible? Well, right. So if they didn't acquire the money yet, then you have to pay again. נמצאו או שהחזירום הגנבים אלו ואלו שקלים ואין עולין להן לשנה הבאה. Okay, so in that case where the Bet HaMikdash didn't yet do the withdrawal, and so the people all collected and paid a second time, and then afterwards all of a sudden they found the thief. So now they have two from one city. They have two sets of machasita shekel. Or if he lost it, but then they found it. Now what do you do? Well, the city dwellers can't take the money back because they already donated it to the Bet HaMikdash. So both these and those are donated to the Bet HaMikdash. You can't use it for next year. Take a credit for next year. There's no rollover credits for machasita shekel. And we're going to see you can't use it. They don't actually both go to machasita shekel because everybody has to give the same amount, only pay once. So the additional part, the second one, the double, goes to the Bet HaMikdash to use for other extra expenses. That's the end of the Mishnah. Okay, Gemara. Ve'ya'asu otan margaliot. Now, the agent who's carrying it, why does he bother changing it for the darkonot, which the gold coins? Still going to be a lot of coins. Why not change it for a pearl or a gem? And then it'll just be very small and very easy to travel with. Answer is Shema Tazila Margaliot v'Nimsa Hekdesh Mafsid, because we're afraid maybe the price of pearls will go down. And now, everybody donated all this money that's worth $1,000. While he's traveling, he changes it for a pearl, but the price of pearls goes down, and now he gets there and it's only $950. So then that goes down. So therefore, whatever he exchanges with has to be a currency, because currency relatively doesn't devalue. You always know you can exchange it back for shekalim, and it'll be okay. It'll always be the same amount. We have a Mishnah in Bechorot that says anything that you redeem, like Bechor or other things that they're holy, and now I want to redeem it for money. And so therefore that thing that I made hekdesh, right? I said, this cup is hekdesh, and then I redeem it for money. I can redeem it for money or anything that's the same value, that's valuable. So if I donate, donate a vase, and then I want to keep the vase, and I say the value will go to oil, and I'll bring the oil. That's fine. I could use money or anything that's worth money. I could do that in general, except for chutz mishekalim, except for machasita shekel. Ve'en podin bekelim. Machasita shekel, I have to, if I'm going to exchange it for travel use, I have to exchange it with other minted currency and not with vessels. The reason is because machasita shekel is a specific amount, and therefore I can't change it with a commodity that might go more or less in its value. And so therefore that's the rule. We apply it here also. We can't use pearls, even though you're right, they are easier to transport, but their value is flexible. Matita betiklin hadatin ava betiklin atikin la beda. Okay, when we just said that we put out collection boxes in every city, we only put out collection boxes in all the cities for hadatin, for the new collection, meaning for the current year, for the upcoming year. When it's Adar, we're going to put a collection box for the upcoming Nisan. However, for the old, let's say someone didn't pay machasita shekel on time, and so they still owe from last year's tax. In the Bet HaMikdash itself, there would be a collection box for last year's tax, or like kind of like the current year, if it's Hadad and they didn't give the previous year. But in the other cities, they don't do that. We have the collection box for the previous year only in Bet HaMikdash, but not elsewhere, right? Point is, you're supposed to get it in on time. If you didn't, okay, then find a way to get it into that box within the Bet HaMikdash. Matnitin b'shomer chinam. We said that if we give it to an agent, a city makes a collection, gives it to an agent, to a messenger to bring to the Bet HaMikdash. If he loses it or it's stolen, he swears that it wasn't his fault. We're talking here about a shomer chinam, that the agent is not paid. Right? He's going anyway, and he says, okay, I'll take it with me. So he has less responsibility. But if we hire someone and pay him to guard it and be the messenger to deliver it, then that person is responsible. If it's lost or stolen, then the messenger has to pay from his own money because, right, that's his job. So that's like, hiring an armored vehicle, right? They're responsible to make sure it gets there safely. אמר רבי אבא, ואפילו תאמר בשומר שכר, נגדבו בליסטים מזוין, עבדו כמי שבטבעה ספינתו בים. Rabbi Abba says, I can explain the Mishnah even if it's talking about a hired agent, a hired messenger, because if it's stolen by armed robbers, or if he's going on a ship and the whole ship sinks, even a paid messenger is not liable, right? A paid messenger is liable for normal cases of just a regular thief, or making sure it doesn't get lost under normal circumstances. But in extreme circumstance, even the paid messenger is not liable. Amar Rabbi Yustai Rabbi Simon, Atya keman damar tormin ala gaboy ve'al ha'atid le'gabot. Okay, this whole Mishnah, remember in the Mishnah we said that if the messenger is on the way, right, and then it gets lost, it depends on the Bet HaMikdash. If they already made the withdrawal, then the money belongs to the Bet HaMikdash, and so the Bet HaMikdash has to incur the loss. Now, even though this money is still on the way, right? So this follows the opinion that says when they make the withdrawal in the Bet HaMikdash, they have in mind all that which was already collected but didn't yet get there, and even whatever will be collected in the future, right? As the Kohen Gadol takes a shovel and says, I'm collecting here these coins and any coins that will come in the next few months, he has them in mind. And so therefore, the ones that are on the way belong to the Bet HaMikdash incurs the loss. But there is another opinion that says when he puts the shovel in, I'm taking from these that are here right now. People who didn't send them in yet, they should have sent them in earlier, and I don't have them in mind. In that case, this would not be so. If the agent didn't get there, then they do not belong to the Bet HaMikdash, right, until it's actually delivered. And according to that opinion, even if they did the withdrawal and the agent lost it, it would be the responsibility of the city dwellers to donate again. So we mentioned again now that if they were lost and stolen, then and not been collected, then the agent takes an oath to the city dwellers. Amar Rabbi Elazar, did Rabbi Shimon omer kadashim shehu chaya b'achriyutan kin chasav hen. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon elsewhere has this opinion that says anything that is holy but is worth money. Let's say I donate something, right? I donate my car to the Bet HaMikdash. It's worth money, and I am still responsible for its value, right? Even though I donated it. So that's what Rabbi Shimon says, that I'm still responsible. There's another opinion there that says once I donate it, it's not my responsibility anymore, right? And so if something happens to the car, not my problem. I donated it already. So according to Rabbi Shimon, even though I donated, I am responsible for its value. And that's why if the agent lost it, the city dwellers, he has to swear to the city dwellers, and the city dwellers have to pay for it again. Even though they already donated and made it hekdesh, they're still responsible for the monetary value. So it makes sense according to the Bishimon. But Rabbi Yochanan says, actually, I can explain the Mishnah according to all opinions, even the opinion that says once someone donates something, that's it. It's not their responsibility anymore. So in that case, why would the agent have to make a swear to the city dwellers, right? He's not responsible to the city dwellers anymore. They already gave it to the Bet HaMikdash. No, even according to that opinion, they can say that he has to swear midrabanan, right? There's a drabanan law that, so midoraita, you're right. Once they made it hekdesh, it's not their problem. But midrabanan, we make it their problem. And so the agent has to swear to the city dwellers, I'm sorry, I lost your money, even though it wasn't really your money anymore, but the money that you are responsible for, and they have to give again. But all that is midrabanan if you don't follow the Rabbi Shimon. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that the swear to the city dwellers owns Rabbanan, it makes sense that he would have to swear to the treasurers because it really belongs to the treasurer, to the treasury. But if not, if they didn't do the collection yet, then he would swear to the city dwellers, and because of midrabanan. So now we understand it according to that opinion. However, according to Rabbi Elazar, it says the whole Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Then we have to also explain both sides. We understand if we follow Rabbi Shimon and the city dwellers are in fact responsible for the value of what they donated, then that makes sense why the agents have to swear to the city dwellers. And that's Rabbi Shimon. But now we don't understand the other side. Like Gizbarim, my avidetaihu. Why should they have to swear to the treasurers, right? What do the treasurers have to do with it? The city dwellers that are responsible for it. The treasurers, it's not like their treasurers own money that you have to swear to the treasurers, right? He just works there, right? So what would be the point? Why do I have to swear to the treasurers? So the answer is what we do is actually in all cases the agent who lost it is swearing to the city dwellers. But if in Bet HaMikdash, if they already did take the shovel, then you need the gizbarim to be present. So the agent will tell the city dwellers, listen, it wasn't my fault. I wasn't negligent. And we're going to have the treasurers standing there so that the treasurers will know that the agent didn't do anything wrong, and they'll know that the city dwellers appointed an agent and were responsible to make sure it got there. Or alternatively, similarly, the city dwellers don't want the temple treasury to suspect that they didn't collect and didn't send money at all, right? And just making up an excuse. Oh, we sent it with him, right? The dog ate it. So therefore, the truth is that it's the city dwellers that are always responsible because we follow Rabbi Shimon. They're responsible for the monetary value. And the swear of the agent is always to the city dwellers. Just a question of, do you want the treasurers to be there? If it's before they took the shovel and collected, then the treasurers don't have to be there. But afterwards, then the treasurer was like, okay, this was already in our domain. And so you want the treasurers to be there just to witness that the city dwellers did nothing wrong. Okay, good. Now, even though the city dwellers say, okay, we'll make a collection again, nevertheless, they have to make a swear because we're not going to make another hekdesh right? Without making a swear. We don't want people to take Hekdesh lightly, and they'll say, "Oh, you lost it. Okay, we'll just do it again." Right, as if no big deal. No, if you listen, your agent, even if you lose it, you're gonna have to make a swear because it's a big deal, right? We don't want to treat it lightly, so the swear adds to the seriousness. Okay, now we're talking about a person, right? I had some coins. I picked up a coin. I said, okay, I'm going to use this for machasita shekel, right? And I put it somewhere, and then I forgot where I put it. So I never gave it to the money collector. I never put it in the box. So what's the law? What happens with that coin? Do I have to give again? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Chayav b'achriyuto ad sheimserenu lagizbar. So Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, I am responsible for it until I give it to the treasurer. So if I lost it, I got to go get another one. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish omer hekdesh b'rshut hagavah b'chol makom shehu. Rabbi Shimon says, no, I don't. Once I designate, I say this is going to be machasita shekel. This coin is going to be hekdesh. Then even if I lost it, doesn't matter. Wherever it is, it's in some drawer somewhere, and it belongs to the Bet HaMikdash. Let them come and find it, so I don't have to give again. Okay, so that's Resh Lakish. We're going to ask a question on Resh Lakish from our Mishnah. Matnita peliga Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Doesn't make sense, right? The Mishnah says if the agent lost the money of the city dwellers, then the city dwellers have to give again, right? Why? Resh Lakish just said that as long as I designated it, even if I lost it, I don't have to give again. It's hekdesh. Wherever it is, it belongs to the Bet HaMikdash. I don't have to actually physically give it again. So why did Mishnah say I have to give it again? So the Gemara answers, we already explained that all this is midrabanan. The truth is that it will be hekdesh wherever it is. So it got lost or it got stolen. So that means the thief has hekdesh money. Okay, it's over there. So it's eventually, hopefully it'll get to the Bet HaMikdash. But if not, it's still holy, and the people fulfill their obligation. The only reason we make them swear and make them pay again is all midrabanan. And so the Mishnah is midrabanan. The Shakish was talking about midoraita. Okay, Taneh harishonim noflin letiklin chadatin, vashanim noflin letiklin atikin. Now, in the case where the city dwellers collected money, they gave it to the agent, and the agent lost it, and now they pay again. And let's say they pay again, and now they found the thief. So now they have two sets, right, of machasita shekel that everyone's going to give. What do we do with each one? So the first one, I'll explain in a second what the first one is, but the first batch, they go to the next year, what they were meant for. The second batch goes to the previous year. So what happens with the previous year? Any leftover money, right? You have to pay a certain amount for all the communal sacrifices. Anything that's left over, you use for maintenance of the Bet HaMikdash. So the second batch will go for maintenance. Never goes for the 2 years from now, right? You can't roll it over. So that's the Baraita. What do you call the first and second? The one that you donated first? Yes, it's the ones that they donated first. Those, then now they found them. Those should go to this coming year. Others say whichever reached the treasury first. So it could be that they donated the replacement, but in the meantime they found the thief, and the thief was like already in Yerushalayim, and maybe that money got there first, or the other way around, they found the thief later. And so if in that case the replacement, that money gets to the treasury first, then that will be first and come to for the upcoming year, and the money that they found later will end up going for the extra maintenance like from last year. Okay, and the next Mishnah, which we'll read and we'll finish also. Hanoten shiklo lachabero lishkol al yado ushkalo al yede atzmo. Okay, Reuben has machazita shekel. Okay, he says, this is my machazita shekel. And then he sees his friend Shimon. Hey, Shimon, you're going that way anyway? Would you do me a favor? Take this coin and put it in the pushka for me for machazita shekel. What does Shimon do? He says, oh, look at this coin. You know what? I'm going to put it in for myself, right? Here, I donate this for myself, for Shimon. So he's basically stealing the money from Reuben, who gave it to him as a messenger. So what do you do in that case? Okay, so once that money goes to the Bet HaMikdash and they make a withdrawal, at that moment, Shimon violated misuse of consecrated property, me'ilah, because he fulfilled his obligation for Machazit Shekel. They're not going to come after his money, after his property anymore. So he gets benefit from something that isn't his, right? That actually belongs to the Bet HaMikdash because Reuben already designated it to be Hekdesh. And so now Shimon will violate. But he only violates once the Bet HaMikdash actually collects it, right? Until that time, it's just Hekdesh, but it doesn't belong to anyone in particular. השוקל שקלו מן ההקדש ונתרמה תרומה וקרבה בהמה מעל ממעשה שני מדמה שביעית יאכל כנגדן. Okay, someone who designates someone who takes hekdesh money, right? Have money that I already sanctified it. I already said this money I'm going to use to buy a korban one day. And then I also give it for machasita shekel. So now double use on the same money. That also is a problem. Once it goes to the Bet HaMikdash and they collect it and they buy an animal with it, then that person is liable for me'ilah because he has this money that was supposed to be used to buy a personal animal. And instead, it's being used to buy the communal sacrifice. And now that money is going to some farmer who's going to take it for himself, right? And so, but now it's being used. You have holy money that's being used for a non-sacred purpose. So the person that donated at that point becomes liable. If it's Maaser Sheni, okay, Maaser Sheni is money that I live far away. Any produce that I have to bring to Yerushalayim and eat it there. If I live far away, I redeem it with money. Or Shevi'it fruit that I can redeem with money and then use it during Shevi'it. So these have lesser status because I can easily to re-redeem. So all I do is if I by mistake, I took a Maaser Sheni coin and I donated it for Machasita Shekel, then I should just go get other food and eat it in Yerushalayim instead, kind of, redeem the value of that money with food. All right, now the Gemara on this Mishnah HaShokel, if someone, I can try, Reuben gives it to Shimon and Shimon contributes it on his own behalf. Anan tanenan im kareba behema vetaneh deberebi im nitrema hateruma. So we have two versions of this Mishnah. When does Shimon violate the me'ilah? Actually, no, we're talking about the second case here. When someone takes consecrated money and he also gives it for the for Machazit Shekel. So we have two versions. Our version that we read is once the Bet HaMikdash buys an animal, then the Reuben is chayav me'ilah. And others say once they made a collection, made a withdrawal, they're already chayav me'ilah. The Shimon here. The second version is actually follows Rabbi Shimon. That when the Bet HaMikdash go to their suppliers, right? The Bet HaMikdash, they have to also buy things. So when they go and they buy animals that they're going to use for the upcoming year, they pay right away. Right? They're very zealous, and they make sure that any animals that they buy will not get a blemish and all that. So they're never going to have to return it, or there's you don't have to worry if you sell something to the Kohanim and the Bet HaMikdash. You don't have to worry that they're ever going to come back and return it. So therefore, the sale happens immediately, and they pay immediately. And for that reason, even if they didn't actually sacrifice the animal yet, it doesn't matter. You know that animal is going to be sacrificed, and so that money becomes non-sacred as soon as they hand over the money, as soon as the sale goes through. So therefore, the person is liable immediately. Okay. According to the other opinion, I guess they would say that Kohanim are not always so zealous, and it could be that they would take the withdrawal. They would go buy an animal, but if the animal, something happens to it, they'd go return it and get another one. And so it's not until it's actually sacrificed that the donator, the Reuben, would be chayav me'ilah. Okay. Ve'kashya. Ilu hagonev olato shel chavero. Now, this is a question on the first case. When Reuben has a coin, he gives to Shimon, right? He says, give this Machazit Shekel on my behalf. Shimon goes and does it for himself, Okay, so then he's chayav me'ilah. Now the question is why, right? If you had an animal that you designated to be an olah, and then I stole it, and I go and do shechita without any and having in mind any particular person, so it's no problem because I actually did you a favor. I took your animal, and you were the one that gets the kapara, right? Shimon steals Reuben's animal and gives it as an olah. Reuben still gets the benefit, even though Shimon stole it. So he really didn't steal anything. So how come here also you wouldn't say the same thing? Reuven gave the machasita, wanted to give the machasita shekel. Shimon gave it in his own name, but who cares? It was still Reuven's, and so he gave it. So Reuven gets the credit, right? Shimon falsely gets the credit. It doesn't help him. Amar Rabbi Yehuda tipater b'msuyam mishel bet Rabban Gamliel shem mitkaven v'dochafo letoch hakupa. This is very interesting. So we can explain that the Shimon is liable to me'ilah if, for example, he didn't just put it in the pushka and say, whatever for whoever it is. He says for me, but it doesn't matter. It'll still be for Shimon. In that case, he wouldn't be chayav me'ilah because it really went to Shimon. We're talking about a case where right before the Kohanim were going to take their withdrawal with the shovel, he goes and puts it right in front of the shovel and says, "This is for me." Make sure that the Kohanim know, look, this is my coin. I want this to be for me. For example, Rabban Gamliel, the house of Rabban Gamliel used to actually do that. Rabban Gamliel, they were the Nasi. They're very important. And when they gave Machasita Shekel, they wanted to make sure that my particular coin is going to actually be used for the communal sacrifices. See, what happens with everybody else is that they give a lot of money. Only part of it, I'll say only half of it is actually used for the communal sacrifices. Everybody gets credit anyway because we're all joining together. But half of the coins will actually be used, and half the coins will just go to the overflow fund. So Rabban Gamliel, he was so important, he wanted to make sure his coin in particular was used. So he would go at the time that they were making the withdrawal, he would put his coin in front of the shovel and then take that coin and see, oh, my coin. Okay, so he got to do that because he was so important. So we're talking about a case like that, where Shimon goes and makes the coin specifically, here's the coin and it's for me. That's when he violates me'ilah. But if you just put it in the general pushka, it wouldn't necessarily be me'ilah because it would still credit Reuven. Now we ask on that. Wait, there's another way he could violate me'ilah, and that would be if he put it in the general fund and it was not used for the communal sacrifices, but went for the general maintenance. So now that's for general maintenance. No one's getting the credit for it, right, in terms of the sacrifices. And that would be a case of me'ilah. Why don't you say it's talking about that? The answer is, wait, is there any, do you violate me'ilah for things that are just used for extra contributions for other things? You shouldn't. Oh, well, we could follow to be Meir because he says, yes, there is a concept of Me'ilah, even for the overflow funds that you just use for maintenance. And it could also be a case he would violate Me'ilah in what we just said when he donates specifically for myself, like Rabban Gamliel used to do. And last section, ma neheneh. What benefit does a person get that he would be chayav me'ilah? Me'ilah means I come to the Bet HaMikdash, I take one of the gold vessels and I drink some juice out of it. So now I got benefit from that vessel. So that's called me'ilah. But in this case, so I'm donating, Reuven donated, and Shimon gives it on his own behalf. Well, he didn't get any monetary benefit from that. So why is he chayav me'ilah? אמר רבי אבין בשם רבנן דתמן מכיוון דבית שבית דין ראויים למשכן ולא משכנו כמו שנהנה. No, because the bet din, they can come to Shimon and say, you didn't pay machzit shekel, we're taking your field. And now they're not going to take his field because they checked his name off because he gave it for himself. So that is a benefit. So that's why it's chayav me'ilah. Lastly, mima'aseh sheni, if someone had a coin that they used to redeem ma'aseh sheni produce, and now they take that coin and they give it to machasita shekel. So you can't use one coin for both things. How do we know? Dichtiv ach bechor asher yibukad laHashem bibhema lo yakdish ish oto. Just like an animal, you can't use an animal for two things. If animal is already a bechor, so it's ekdesh. You can't take that and donate it as an olah for yourself. right? You can't use a hekdesh animal for two different purposes. Kol shu kodesh and kiddush hachala alav doesn't even work. If it's already hekdesh, it can't make it hekdesh again. So too with this coin, it's already maaser sheni. That's hekdesh. I can't now make it machazit hashekel also. So kesad hu oseh. So what should I do if I did it? If now it happened by mistake? Maybe sela shel chulin. V'omer ma'ot maaser sheni b'chol makom shehen yu mechulalin al sela zo. So what I do is I take another coin, just a regular coin, and I say that this coin will be the value of the maaser sheni that was on the coin that I donated now should go onto this coin. And now the coin I gave to machazit shekel is only machazit shekel. And the one that I just used, just took, v'otasela nitpas l'shem maaser sheni, v'ashar nasu shekalim. And so then that coin will be become a maaser sheni coin, and the rest will be the one that I gave already will be machazit shekel. And so that's a pretty simple process to redeem the value of maaser sheni. Amen.